The Spurs owe Kevin Durant a very large consulting fee because he just gave them the best advice they could get. Now, most of us recognize the Spurs need to get Victor the ball down low to experience real success. But for Mitch Johnson and his 30 assistants, this is still very much a mystery. The good news is, mystery solved. Kevin Durant is out here giving away the answers to the test.
Shoot over us. He's more dangerous when he gets layups and dunks and plays around the rim. That's more his game, I think, than floating around the perimeter, shooting threes and jump shots.
There was so much truth in that 9-second clip. It should be on repeat at the Spurs practice facility. In fact, let's go ahead and break this into two parts and listen again because this is everything.
For the most part, we made him shoot over us. He's more dangerous when he gets layups and dunks and plays around the rim. That's more his game, I think, than
He's more dangerous when he's getting layups and dunks and playing around the rim. That's more his game than
floating around the perimeter, shooting threes and jump shots.
floating around the perimeter, shooting threes and jump shots. And yet, that's what we see the most from Victor because he relents to the defensive pressure. Now, obviously, defenses have caught on to the fact that you cannot let Victor get close or else he is going to score. So they're walling him off. And so now it is up to the Spurs to come up with ways to get him the ball in the paint. And to date, the Spurs have done a very poor job of this. We've already seen this in his first two seasons, and we're seeing it again. The Spurs need to make sure that they are getting Victor more layups and more dunks, and that falls largely on Mitch Johnson, but it also is Victor's responsibility to push to get closer to the basket. And of course, defenses are making this very difficult. And I have a video, I think it's from a week ago, where Julius Randle is just fouling him throughout the fourth quarter of a Timberwolves game. But the fact still remains that the Spurs are enabling Victor to become a perimeter player. And like Kevin Durant said, when it's going in, everything looks great, everything's amazing. But we know that the three-pointer doesn't always fall, and it won't in the playoffs. That is a given. The three-pointers will dry up in the playoffs. So are you able to generate offense otherwise? And for the Spurs, the answer will be no. If the playoffs started today, they're not going to make it that far because Victor's still a perimeter player. They still lock up, they surrender leads, and that's a separate video, but we've seen over and over again that the Spurs will build the lead and then they will give that lead back up right away. But when it comes to Victor playing on the perimeter, that is where the bulk of his offense comes from right now. And Kevin Durant just said it as plainly as can be. The Spurs need to get him the ball around the basket, and that's the player he needs to become, not a perimeter player. I wouldn't be surprised if Ime Udoka confronted him after this and asked him, why did you just tell them? They still hadn't figured it out yet. This is something the Spurs need to work on, and I think they need to become a running team, a fast pace team, so that they can get the ball to Victor more in open space. And I think when they're in the half court, the half court doesn't really suit them. Of course, sometimes you have to play half court offense, but I think they need to press for a larger percentage of their offense to come from being a running team and to playing more in open space. Because when it's in half court, the defenders just go right, they attach right to Victor right away, and that's really it. And so in the half court, the Spurs have not figured out how to get Victor the ball close to the basket. When he tries to post up, he gets debased. And that is just because he's so tall that it's very easy for defenders to go under him and push him out. And so we see him get pushed out continuously. And what happens is Victor ultimately relents to the defensive pressure. And that's why we see him end up shooting threes. Now, to be fair to Victor, the Spurs lost this Rockets game, but it really just comes down to the fact that he didn't make hardly any jump shots. And so this really isn't about him being a perimeter player. He's not going to go 0 of 7 for most games. He's actually a very good three-point shooter, and that's why we see him become comfortable with the three-pointers because he does experience some success. It's not going to be the level of success that he will have once he gets the ball closer to the basket. So for this game, he finished 5 of 21 and 0 of 7 from 3. So that makes the Rockets look good, and they come away with the win after the Spurs lost their lead. But the Spurs win this game if Victor's able to just shoot just a slightly better. And so that's really what this game came down to. But Kevin Durant's point remains. The Spurs have to get him the ball closer to the basket. And Mitch Johnson is learning on the job. And this is one reason I wanted anyone else. I didn't like the Mitch Johnson hire because he is learning on the job. He just turned 39. With coaching, you want someone with more experience. Now, have there been impressive parts to this season? Yes. Beating OKC 3 times, extremely impressive. The Spurs have a really good record, but I did expect the Spurs to play about where they're at right now. They're actually slightly above. I predicted them at 50 wins for the season, but the Spurs have waves of talent. And so they've played decently so far, but if they're going to take it to that next level, we will need Victor to get more easy baskets. And so that's really what I wanted to cover. But I think I'd like to end with one more time just listening to this very this wisdom coming from Kevin Durant.
Shoot over us. He's more dangerous when he gets layups and dunks and plays around the rim. That's more his game, I think, than floating around the perimeter, shooting threes and jump shots. When they go in, it looks amazing, but when we get a hand up on it with some bad misses, we was able to get out and run. But his length in the paint is a problem.
I'm going to leave it right there because that's exactly it. His length in the paint is a problem. So if the Spurs can figure out how to get Victor the ball regularly in the paint, they're going to be a problem for every opponent and they're going to take over the league because then the offense can flow through Victor and everything is going to open up when Victor is getting layups and dunks over and over again versus 3-point attempts. So here it is. I mean, this is Kevin Durant plainly and simply stating exactly what the Spurs need to do.